is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. I'm Paul Catalina alongside Royden Ogletree. Hey, there was a national championship game last night. That I thought it was going to be a little bit better, but I will say this in that it was way better than last year's.
Wow.
Way better than last year's, and better than many of the national championship games we've gotten.
For 3 quarters, it ended up being a good game.
It was a competitive game, and then Michigan's physicality just wins out.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. I feel bad. Garrett, I know you can back me up on this.
What's up?
At the beginning of the season, who did I say was going to win the national championship?
I can't remember.
Florida State.
It was Michigan.
Was it Michigan?
I said
Okay.
Michigan. And then yesterday evening, when I got a chance to pick that and stick with my guns, I backed off it and picked Washington.
Last second.
Because I've just not been that impressed with them the last month. I just thought they haven't, but they just muscle you up so well. And so
this game to me feels like they were almost sleepwalking through some of their Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, probably. I mean, look. There's the pre-Connor Stallions. There's post-Connor Stallions.
Yeah.
And pre-Connor Stallions, they were putting up offensive numbers that didn't hold when they didn't have the signals anymore. So there's those two things that happened. And when everybody found out about it, and then and they had to change. Yes, it was different.
And Harbaugh wasn't there.
But they were still incredibly efficient, and they won their games. And they really, other than the Ohio State game, there was not a game that was in question at all. The Penn State game, they didn't throw a pass in the second half.
It was just gross.
And weren't worried about it. They just weren't.
Yeah.
You're watching them going, well, we're not worried about this offense in the slightest. So we're just going to run the ball like we do. And last night, there's two things that I wish I'd put more weight behind. One is, and we talked about this a lot last week, Texas gave up running the ball more than they should have early in the game when they were still...
Oh, that was all over my timeline of Texas fans being like, I can't believe that we lost. Well, you did, so...
Yeah. But you did, and you did maybe because of this. You kind of were like, well, let's try to get the receivers going. Let's try to do this when you didn't really need to. And so I'm sure Sark will be kicking himself for that after watching that game last night. And the other thing was, so Alabama, outside of the Texas game, skirted through all year. Garrett and I talked about this a lot, being ridiculously sloppy, right?
Yeah.
Really sloppy and having really sloppy, stupid mistakes.
Penalties.
They never had a team that made them pay for it, including Georgia, which blew my mind. But nobody made them pay for it. Michigan made them pay for it. Washington...
And they almost didn't. We forget how...
Washington was a lot cleaner team than Alabama, but they played every game tight. And so when you play every game tight and you don't ever really assert control in those moments, a team like Michigan's going to make you pay for that. And Michigan did that. And those, to me, were the two biggest factors in why Michigan and not Washington last night.
The margin for error when you're playing a team as good as Michigan has been all year, and I have been saying on the show that sneaky Washington might be the best team that in NCAA, really. But then you kind of look back on it and you're like, oh, well, what about the other guy that was also 14-0 and just killing everyone? But the margin for error when you're playing a team that is in consideration for 1A or 1B for the best team, it gets thinner and thinner. So I think that it all came to a head. Washington, whatever pixie dust or magic lamp that they rubbed to win some of these close nail biter games down the stretch against Oregon, especially. Yeah. It's weird to say that because some people don't believe in luck. I kind of do when it comes to college football because it's such a weird sport that it just kind of ran out.
Yeah,
and so once that margin for error ran out and they were making pre-snap penalties and setting themselves behind the chains, and all of a sudden Michael Penix couldn't hit throws, and then it was just
because they beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, they didn't sack him that often, but they had to hit the guy all night. But they were in his lap. But it felt to me like oh, the clock struck midnight a little bit on whatever the story was. And not to discount what all they've done this season, because it takes winners to win those close matchups, obviously.
But eventually you're going to get to somebody who's not going to make those mistakes. And Michigan,
who's not going to fold down the stretch.
And Michigan, like, for all, like, you could say about, like, their style and boring and blah, 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 they don't make mistakes. They don't, like, beat themselves at all. Like, their worst thing that they do is, like, throw an incomplete pass on 3rd and 8. And you're like,
throw it out of bounds, yeah.
like, that's the worst thing. You know, they don't really turn the ball over that much. They don't, like, they don't make silly defensive mistakes. They don't.
I mean, their special teams would be their Achilles heel, but last night it didn't show because you were able to bounce in the field goals. But that's really the only thing you can.
Yeah, they dropped a punt in that Alabama game. Like it felt a little hairy sometimes down with them fielding punts, and he squeaked in those field goals, both of them by the hair of their chin. But it really is sort of the ground and pound old style, is the Harbaugh mentality that we've always seen. But don't make mistakes, don't turn the ball over, and eventually these linebackers will fold. And also, we'll probably just mug your wide receivers all the way down the field and hope that they call a penalty, but don't worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, you go with it until it quits working. And, you saw last night, something like Michigan, and this Ari Wasserman mentioned this last week, and he's the dude for The Athletic. He is the captain of Stars Matter.
Yeah, Stars
Matter, Stars Matter, Stars Matter. But even he has started to move off of that because, how much do stars matter for Texas A&M in 2022 anymore? It doesn't. Like, sometimes stars matter, yes. You need to have good recruiting classes to win the national championship. You need to have those plus players. But you also have to have veteran, developed guys, and that's what the transfer portal has allowed teams to do is, all right, so say we don't have the number 1 class or the number 4 class. We have the number 9 or 11 class, but I can also go in the portal and get veteran dudes to help me out where I would have to be throwing a true freshman out there before, and I can.
It's a great equalizer, or it can raise your ceiling
if you're
much
good
higher.
if you're good at it, and that's not. It's like free agency, like in the NFL, like if you use it as a supplemental thing, it's great.
Right.
If
it's your only thing.
If it's your only thing,
2012 Eagles or whatever.
Ask the Browns or the Jaguars have had so many bad years where we have so much salary cap room. We're just gonna give it to everybody. And then no one asks hey, if this guy's worth so much money, then why did the team that he was with just let him go?
Do his knees work?
Yeah. Hey,
don't worry about it.
Yeah. When you throw a pass to him, does he say "ow"? Oh, my hand was broken 11 times.
Yeah.
And I just can't. All those things.
Was it Ronnie Lott was missing thing? Isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, he cut off the top. We've interviewed Ronnie Lott a couple times. I'll tell you this quick sidebar story. So we're at the Super Bowl in New York on Radio Row, and we were trying to get somebody, and the lady told me we could get him, and then he's like, oh, I don't know where he is. He just kind of left.
Like the situation.
He's got to be back. He's got to be back, but I don't know when. I just know that he has to do these interviews this late afternoon. And I was like, oh man, okay. She's like, well, I've got Ronnie Lott and Eric Dickerson here for Snickers. Do you want them? And I was like, I mean, I guess if I've got to.
Oh, darn.
And then in my mind, I'm like, yes. Yeah. So because Smokey gets Garrett can tell you gets real kind of territorial. Although you got to see chill Smokey at the Super Bowl. He got real territorial and he was really upset. And I was like, hey, we're not getting so-and-so, whoever it was, who I can't remember now because I was like, but I do have
Jake from Safe Farm.
And then perfectly, they walked up behind me. I was like, I've got Eric Dickerson and Ronnie Lott here to do an interview with this. Is that okay? And he was just like, oh, all right, let's go. Let's do it. But yeah, and so before I said before we even start, he goes, yes, everybody wants to see it. Oh. And so I was like, yeah. Yeah. All right. I said, and he doesn't, it doesn't, it works.
Yeah.
He can do everything that we can do.
I like your point, though, going all the way back about the stars win thing. I'm so sick of teams that I root for, Baylor, being yeah, we can get there with no offense to these guys, but 3-star prospects. It's no, every dude, it feels on the Michigan line, and I know this can't be true, but on the Michigan offensive and defensive line are 5-star, 6'7", 370-pound dudes, like every single one of them. And I know I'm being hyperbolic, but like that feels like where they have won. And it's where Georgia has won, and it's where these massive programs have won. And then you can fill in, like, I think Blake Corum was like a 4-star prospect, but like, or maybe even a high 3-star. But, you know, he's ran for 25 touchdowns. You want to know why? Because he's running behind the biggest people on earth.
Yeah.
And like they would write Bible stories about these people if they showed up back in the day. And I think that where we get lost in the weeds is, we can make do in the transfer portal with these dudes from, you know, Kennesaw State or wherever. When really it's like, I think where you need to look for the transfer portal people is like the secondary and your wide receivers and your running backs and occasionally the quarterback. If you build up front with massive prospects, which there's like, I don't know, 10 linemen usually, that there aren't many that are like 5-star prospects, but I think if you start there and then build out, it really helps. And like all that to say, that's the reason that Donovan Edwards like tripled his rushing output last night in one game.
Yeah.
That and Washington's linebackers couldn't keep contained to save their lives. But
I'm going to go through just recent history when it comes to national like champions when you talk about offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just talked about Michigan. They've got Ladarius. Like they had Zach Zinter all year too, who didn't play because he had a season-ending injury, I believe, against Ohio State. But he's going to be a high draft pick too. But like Zach Zinter and Drake Nugent and Ladarius Henderson, and Ladarius Henderson's a transfer. Like they brought him in. They have all these big stud offensive linemen. They also have Mason Graham and Chris Jenkins up the middle. And last year they had Chris Jenkins and Mozzie Smith. So like they've been building this for a while. I'm not even talking about their ends, but right up the middle they were good. Look, Georgia won the previous two, right? Well, in the previous 2 years, they've had guys like Jordan Davis on defense. They've got those huge offensive lines that just knock through. And if you go by, like,
potentially the best player in the NFL that's on the Eagles now. Why am I forgetting his name? They got in trouble before the draft.
Jalen Carter.
Both
on the Eagles.
Right,
Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis the last 2 years. They've had offensive linemen that are littering the NFL right now. Alabama the same. 2019 LSU, look, the best player on that team, the best players on that team are often talked about because it was Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson and Chase and guys like that. Yes, but they won because of those guys and the fact that the whole defensive line is in the NFL right now and the whole offensive line is in the NFL right now from 2019. Like that's how they won. And then look, I can tell you the best offensive and defensive line combo that Florida State ever had, even going back to 93 and 99, was in 2013. They had just stacked there. Ohio State, the last time they won it, they were monsters up front. That's how you win. Like that's when you see the teams that are getting those. 2005 Texas. I remember when they were signing all those defensive linemen, and in the 2001 or 2 class, they had signed like 5 defensive tackles. And I was like, that's dumb. There are like 2 that can play at once. A lot of those guys are going to ride the bench. No. Matt Brown took those guys and just ran them through, and as soon as one of those big hogs got thirsty, he put another one in, and you just didn't move on them. I mean, they had all this like depth on the defensive front, and their offensive line was just crazy good. And so if you can get those 2 things to intersect the right way, you are going to win a lot.
Which, by the way, makes me think that Texas is going to be fine. They desperately have to figure out that secondary, because watching the difference between Penix in that game and the throws were just more open. Granted, he missed a lot more throws yesterday than he did since the Arizona State game back in October. I think this is the worst game he's played since then. In fact, it's the worst game he's played at Washington, which is a terrible tragedy.
Yeah.
But like it is night and day the difference between Michigan's secondary and Texas's secondary.
Yeah.
Because I think their defensive lines are equivalent.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like those 2 guys up front for Texas are going to be probably 1st or 2nd round draft picks.
Yeah.
More than likely. Top 10 maybe for one of them. But like I don't know what the point where I was trying to land this. I think that Texas is going to be fine because they have that.
Oh, yeah.
But like they have to figure out the back end of that. Not to make this a Texas conversation, but you see when you have both units working are synchronized.
Yeah.
What that amounts to.
Absolutely. And look, if you want to know why Michael Penix had his worst game at Washington, just look at the shot of him walking off the field last night.
He's like holding his side, man.
Just like, oh God, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they came out. Remember when like Andrew Luck ruptured his spleen or whatever it was?
Yeah.
And they were like, why is he like all like limped over? Oh, it's because
he has no internal organs.
Yeah,
left.
exactly.
Like,
Lacerated kidney, and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah.
And Michael Penix couldn't walk at the end of that game.
Yeah, no, it was, and he toughed it out. God bless him. But man, I mean, it was just a physical nightmare for Washington, and that's what Michigan did to people all year. And look, you can say like the Connor Stallion things is going to hang over, and Jim Harbaugh can say they're innocent all that he wants.
Well, he's not going to be there, so
he's going to be the coach of the.
the next coach.
I'm calling Chargers. How do we feel about Chargers?
I had a Chargers fan that I worked for, Vinny Winter, shout out. He is from the San Diego area, or from San Diego in general, but he roots for the Chargers, or rooted until they moved, and he said they're dead to him. But he said he believes it's going to be the Chargers because
Herbert.
Because of Herbert. He also used to coach in like San Diego and like had a relationship with them and stuff like that. It makes too much sense.
Yeah. So I think that's because even last night when they asked him like, do you want to win a Super Bowl? He's like, can I just enjoy this right now? Like that
is one thing. Like I don't think his life will be complete. I think that shadow of John winning.
Yeah, he did what he wanted to do, which was go back to his alma mater and build them back to what they were.
Yeah.
Because that's what Michigan used to be. There are people watching the show that, like, when you talk about how good Michigan used to be, they're like, when?
I don't. You don't know. Genuinely, I don't.
Like, how old were you in 1997?
3.
You were 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Garrett and I remember Michigan.
Yes.
Jack was not alive in 1997. He was nary even a thought in 1997.
Maybe a thought.
He might have been a thought. Were you? Yeah, it might have been. No? Yeah, he was a surprise. Yeah, so he wasn't a thought. He was a different thought. That's why.
He was the first thought, not the latter thought.
Yeah, this was the thought was this will be fine. What's happened? So
I'm gonna live forever.
But Jack in 1987. Like, so telling people that Michigan used to be not only good, but like especially the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, which is so intense for the longest time, has really been lopsided because Urban Meyer and Jim Tressel dominated.
Yeah, up until Ryan Day, wasn't it? I mean, the 21st century, it was all Ohio State.
Yeah, like Michigan had they had little one-offs like here and there, but like for the most part, it was Ohio State dominating it. So much so that it was like they were giving their fans cocaine, and then they took away the cocaine. They're like, "Listen, I can't live without cocaine." And they're like, "Well, things are gonna be different. You won't." They're like, I don't want to be 11-1.
Like, you want me to drink coffee?
Yeah.
Am I a child?
I don't want to be 11-1. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Who lives like that? Everyone else, dude.
Yeah, most people.
Yeah.
Most people go to work.
Yeah. But, yeah. And so he built them back to where they were.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go because now that box is checked. And had he checked it last year, we may not be talking about this now. Washington might be going, hey, this is the greatest day of our lives. The best time. The other thing is people also don't remember Washington being good. No. So both these teams, and look, this is the rematch from 92 when Washington won. And, here we are back again. And Michigan got some. You weren't alive in 1992.
No, it was 92 the Desmond Howard year?
Desmond Howard won the Heisman, yes.
Okay.
But Steve Entman was the story of the game. He was the defensive tackle. He was the first pick in the draft by the Colts. Yes.
Okay.
They had the first and third picks. They picked Steve Entman first, and then they picked Quentin Coriat from Texas A&M third.
2 names I totally know.
Yeah, see? But look, this is a real thing. So 1997, I can tell you Charles Woodson. You know Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
That's the last time they won. And they shared it with Nebraska because that's what we used to do, is we used to not let the 2 best teams play each other. And you'd be like, hey, you're going to get this national title, and you're going to get the other one.
Well, yeah, I was looking back on Washington's Wikipedia, who's sneaky. Like, their bowl record doesn't speak for how, kind of historic the program has been over the last, 30 years. And or even before that, too, in the 70s. who was the coach? Was it Day, or am I getting that wrong?
Who?
The coach that led them from the 70s to the 90s into their national championship.
James.
I don't know why I thought Day.
Yeah.
But, like, in that era, they were pretty dominant. They won a Rose Bowl. Of course, they won a national championship. And then didn't Neuheisel go there?
Yep. Neuheisel was there. Sark was there.
It really it doesn't speak to their bowl record and stuff, doesn't speak to how good that they have been over the past few decades. But what I was saying is I found it really funny that they have like claimed or might have claimed national championships. And one was late. It was like 1993 or something like that.
By the way, I'm going to give you another reason I might be fired up about why I got fired up about Washington. Because on Friday I went to see the Boys in the Boat, which is about who?
You were George Clooney pill.
Washington. I was like, there we go. I'm all fired up because of 1936 in a sport that doesn't apply here.
Right.
But
hey, they beat the Nazis, all right, man.
Yeah. No, everybody needs to go see the Boys in the Boat. I say, everybody. If you into like,
I haven't seen it yet. My grandparents have seen it, and they were like, "It's the best movie they've ever seen."
Look, it's a solid B+ sports movie.
Yeah,
like it's in that range of like, it's not like it's very short on most of the character development except for one guy, and even then, like, it's not like it's more just about this. The story moves along, which is what you like about it
because
like
it's rowing.
Yeah, exactly. It moves along. So they just go and go and go, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's really good, but there is a scene at the end, and not to spoil it, but it wouldn't be a movie if they lost to the Nazis. So
we don't make those movies.
They beat the Germans in the 36 Olympics, and Hitler is there. And
is it a Jesse Owens type?
Well, Jesse Owens has a little spot in the movie too. Like he was the story obviously of the 36 Olympics. Yeah. He's got a little spot in the movie. But Hitler, the actor who plays Hitler, has this just great moment where after they lose, he's just flabbergasted and disappointed and leaves in a scurry.
Anyway, no, I think, what do we make of the quarterback play in this game specifically? Because Penix, by all accounts, it was something, it wasn't quarterback rating, I believe, or maybe it was quarterback rating, which is kind of a broken statistic, but like was his lowest of any game he's ever played at Washington. It was like a 47 or something like that. J.J. McCarthy had like a 44, and that's not even like his 10th worst game at Michigan, which says a lot to me.
But about how Michigan has, they created a situation for a long time because quarterback, outside of like we talked about the lines, but quarterback who can win you games in college football is not quite as important as quarterback who can win you games in the NFL.
Well, I feel like in college football, it's like quarterback that won't lose you games.
Yes, that's the first thing, because if you look at the list of national championship quarterbacks, it's littered with dudes who are just a guy. Right? They're just a guy.
I mean, Miami was built on that, right?
Ken Dorsey, just a guy. Gino Torretta won the Heisman Trophy, ultimately was just a guy. And not to knock Gino Torretta, he played really, really well. But, I've often said, of the 2001 Hurricane team, Ken Dorsey was the worst player, and he wouldn't even mind me saying that to his face. He would be like, I was.
Riddled with Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and I was a Heisman Trophy finalist, but I'm fine. I'm fine with you saying that about me because the team around him was so good. This Michigan team around, I think J.J. McCarthy's better than that, as far as athletically and all these things. That also, I don't think we've actually seen J.J. McCarthy's full skill set because they don't really use it.
Right. They're not running the read option with him. He's a little bit quicker than you would.
Yeah,
he's sneaky athletic. No, but I think he's a little bit quicker, especially on some of those runs where he escaped up the middle.
But he's an absolute gamer.
Yeah.
He doesn't make stupid mistakes.
Didn't turn the ball over. Wins you the game, all these things. Very cool customer, doesn't get flabbergasted when things aren't going exactly the right way. All these things. He's really good at the little things. And when you have a quarterback that's really good at the little things and you don't let him get hit and you don't actually put him in a position to get hit because you're running the ball 75% of the time, he's going to be remarkably effective when you ask him to do something because his body feels way better. He's there. Yeah. He's physically there.
Yeah. Which is, it's it's great to have a quarterback who can run, and that's a huge part of his game. But ultimately, you also are taking, like, when he's outside the pocket and not sliding, you're giving the defenders the only thing they've ever wanted in their life is a free shot on this clown, and that's what they want. Well, sometimes you can do it and protect your guy a little better and still win. Things I do admire about this Michigan team, and I've said, like, Harbaugh bothers me immensely on a lot of different levels because it's not.
Is it the daddy issues or where?
No, it's not so much and I talked about this with Chris yesterday. I'm perfectly willing to tell you he's an excellent, excellent coach. I don't like that he's indignant about the things around him that, like, look, dude, we know. Like, don't treat us like idiots. We know. Like, just kind of be like, well, what are you going to, like, if he had been like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? I'd have been like, you know what? Don't like you, but at least
respect.
It's the same, like, and I said this yesterday, it's the same thing about the 2017 Astros, of which I know you are also a fan, in that if the Astros have been like, look, we got out over our skis. Like, we figured out we could do something. We got really egregious with it. You know, we felt it was kind of common practice, so we kind of morally equivocated that way, but we've learned our lesson.
Yeah.
But from Jim Crane on down, it was like, no, you're the asshole. You're like, wait a minute. I don't like.
I wasn't the one hitting the trash can.
No. You're the one asking about it. Like,
right.
I'm the one. Like, it's just. It's just.
I find this whole thing fascinating because we have known for months.
Yeah.
That they were, call it cheating, call it a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Probably cheating. One, we talked about it at length in this show, probably could be solved if you just gave quarterbacks headsets.
And that's going to happen.
Yeah. But two, it just continued, like, not them cheating, but, like, their season, like, nothing happened. You know what I mean? There was this moral outrage about it, and there was a talk about it leading up to the game. And now it's just like, huzzah, Jim Harbaugh did it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here as a 2017 Astros fan and be like, it's the worst thing in the world that has ever happened to college football.
I don't think
There's
it is.
so much worse with college football.
It just, like, it's always going to, like, that's always going to be the pockmark on it of,
right, but I don't feel like we're talking, like, we are now here currently, but we as a collective, it was just kind of like, 3 cheers, hip, hip, hooray, I don't know.
And look, there are things he did well.
While it might still, like, people are like, can't wait for this one to be vacated. You know what I mean?
They were, I hate vacated titles. I hope they don't do that. Like,
never do that.
Like, just look, here's the thing. It's not going to make Washington feel any better.
No.
It's not going to make Michael Penix.
Are you supposed to give Vince Young that Heisman?
Yeah.
For Reggie Bush? No.
It's pointless. So, no, the thing I wonder about it, and I said this yesterday, I'll say it again today. Here's where it gets me of, yes, there are teams doing probably similar things, or they've got a Connor Stallions type that's watching every bit of video he can get, but maybe they weren't doing it to the level that, like, these guys weren't on the Central Michigan sideline wearing spy glasses.
Right.
Like, they weren't doing those things. So that's where it crossed the line to me of scamming your way onto another team's sideline and then using spy glasses.
They're in here right now.
Well, look, we're not even on that shot.
We're not even on that shot.
Yeah, we're not on that shot. But it's weird. Anyway, but it's the thing about it's the steroids comparison I'll use. The deal about steroids is not so much that I'm Brett Boone and I went from hitting 19 home runs to 49 home runs. It's that I was able to do that not only because I'm stronger, but because I don't go on the disabled list anymore.
Well, that was always the thing is, like, you just don't get tired.
Yeah. So, like, oh my gosh, this guy had 275 strikeouts this year. Well, he used to average 6 innings a game, and now he's averaging 8. Mm-hmm. All right, well, he doesn't get tired. The same thing of, did they win a game or they have a better game than they would have this year or the last couple of years?
Right.
Because on that day, whenever it was like, I don't want to play this stupid team. Like, I don't really feel like this. After their first couple series where they, kicked the ball around and they're like, oh, hey, I know it's coming now. Exactly, because you told me. and then they got that momentum back where other teams, have to fight their way out of it and might get upset.
Like would they have dropped a November game to Purdue?
Yeah, because it was just that way.
Yeah.
If they didn't already know all this stuff, like that's the thing that's always going to get me about it. But again, I'm not going to be one of these people who's like invalid, fraudulent. Like it is what it is.
Well, and then it was settled on the field too. Like that's what I'm saying, because then you watched last night, and I think the game was closer than what the final score was indicative of. But like you watched it, and the one team was clearly better.
Yeah,
and there was a chance for Washington to go and make it a game and potentially take it. They couldn't like hit Roma Dunze on some of those wide open throws, but like there was a sense that after some of those runs, Michigan was just in control.
Yeah.
And it felt that way, especially in the fourth quarter when they just wore them down. So it's played out on the field.
Yeah.
So, and also it would be tough for you to go to like Ann Arbor and be like, y'all didn't win.
Yeah.
No, I saw it with my own eyes. I was there.
They physically dominated. They did everything they were supposed to do. And here's the other thing. Much like the Astros got many other chances to show that it wasn't just about, that they knew what pitch was coming.
Right.
Michigan, you're honestly telling me the last month that any team used the same signs as they did the week before they played Michigan.
Right.
Nobody did.
Yeah, they changed everything.
They're changed. Like none of the way there's no way that was on video. And if it was pure Jimbo Fisher level hubris.
That's been my whole thing with this. Like, I don't care about Michigan and cheating, because when it came down to the toughest part of their schedule, they didn't miss a beat, and they kept winning with Jim Harbaugh not even there for 6 games. So I don't care about the sign skill. It's not even it doesn't even really cross my mind. Like, I completely forgot about it until J.J. McCarthy was asked about it the other day.
Yeah, and look, I haven't forgotten.
And he was like, "Well, other people are doing it." Like,
exactly.
Do we know?
That's what the other thing that made me mad about it. It's like, look, dude, just be like, look,
right.
There's a lot of sign stealing that goes on. I'm not going to talk about.
I kind of think if you just come out and you just with all of this stuff and shit, my bad, dude. Like you're just like, we were trying to win.
Yeah. I wasn't all that. Like, I've never been that mad at the stuff that Belichick has pulled.
No,
I really haven't, because ultimately you still got to do it. Like it's just how it is. I just think it's one of those things that's going to hang over, which I don't like. It's always going to feel weird. But again, if you want to let's walk back in history. Like, hey, maybe Georgia doesn't suspend guys when they should for reckless driving and things like that. Like, so like you can keep going. Like, had you suspended a player when he probably deserved to be suspended more, there might be like 30 different national championships, because coaches were like, no, this is not about you.
Right.
Player who did this. This is about the team. And then they lose. and then
Saban had a whole diatribe on this several years ago where they asked him if suspending players and what have you. And he's like, well, if I would have suspended so-and-so for a marijuana bust back in 2013 or whatever, then he wouldn't be a millionaire, business owner now. I mean, I don't think the guy went pro. It's one very specific example.
Well, it's and Bobby, look, my beloved Bobby Bowden, who can do no wrong in my eyes, and I believe this. I think he said there's better ways to solve a lot of things than a dadgum suspension, and he really took on that after the university made him dismiss Randy Moss.
Oh.
For the least bad thing that Randy Moss had ever done. Like, it was, he was like, look, we've got this kid in the right track, and he smoked a little bit of weed, and because he had a rough past in a rough town where he grew up, we're going to dismiss him. Maybe that's not the best thing for Randy Moss. Now, credit to Randy Moss into what he's turned himself into, and that he didn't let any of that stuff knock him off the path. But I do think that for Bobby Bowden, and I think Lou Holtz as well, because he was going to Notre Dame first, like both those guys were like, well, we really felt like we could have helped this kid and he was going to be better off. And certainly when he got his last chance at Marshall, he turned his life around. He was a little immature in the NFL at times, but gosh, who hasn't been?
90s football is so insane. Can you imagine? And look, Baylor has had to diminish, but that's a completely different set of circumstances. But for like a winning team with no problems, if you came up and it was like, hey, Randy Moss smoked a little weed, I think you need to kick him off your team. That coach would tell you to stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
Look, it was like the fourth thing that he had done. All of the rest of them were in high school.
Randy Moss.
But like, sometimes, like you do, you just kind of have to let things go. So like, again, I do think that there is there's wiggle room for things. I just know that this one, the only thing I don't like about it is the way that we've all been treated about it is like, well, look.
Yeah.
Y'all
are stupid for caring about this.
Yeah.
We've gone on, and I believe it was Cat Williams who was in the news about this, about like sports. They're up in arms about performance enhancing substances or cheating in sports. Sports are an entertainment. Now, I know there's something weird inherent about like college sports because these kids are so young and like there's supposed to be this pageantry and sanctity towards college football. The line is getting blurrier and blurrier when it comes to this thing as an entertainment product and entity. Nobody gets mad at actors or wrestlers or whoever for taking steroids or cheating on their taxes or something like that to fund a movie.
Yeah.
No one gets mad at that. It is because that is just baked in to the entertainment product.
Am I mad that to be Achilles and Troy that Brad Pitt was clearly just bathing in HGH?
No. Because he looked great.
Because it worked for the movie.
Yeah. Every single one of those Marvel actors. No, I just ate chicken and rice and worked out 3 times a day. Kiss my ass. All right. No, but I need the receipts. But the thing is with this is because it's a competition, like a literal competition where there are stakes involved as far as health goes, we sort of treat it like it's this holier than thou monument towards the spirit of competition and friendship.
Yeah.
I think that line's getting blurrier and blurrier where we're just going to be like, no, I don't think I'm not advocating for rampant cheating. I'm just saying I don't know if we need to burn down
I don't think there's
burn
two
down
things.
buildings because
let's not
of it.
burn down buildings and let's not morally equivocate. Let's just
that's the word I was looking for.
Accept it for what it is and try to make it better as opposed to being like, well, Ohio State was stealing signs, so Michigan had to steal signs worse. That's J.J. McCarthy's explanation for it. Well, that's not really a good thing. Like, hey, I just went up and punched Garrett for no reason. So then he's going to come and punch me harder. I mean, he's defending himself, but
she's going to cheat on my spouse before she cheated on me.
Yeah, exactly. I feel it coming, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'll preemptively, yes, that's a better example. Don't do that, but just accept it. Not all this stuff is pure as the driven snow.
Yeah.
And, it is what it is. Anyway, when we come back, let's talk about the offseason. This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Royden Ogletree, it's the offseason of college football.
Hey, we made it.
Which, it's a sad and happy time.
Right.
It's sad because we don't, get to watch college football anymore, but it's happy in that this, new beginnings and all.
I don't get to screw off for 8 hours on a Saturday and be have an excuse about it.
Yeah. No, it is football season ending. It's always, I can see it in my wife's eyes of oh, there's things you won't, I don't watch, and I love college basketball. I don't watch like 4 college basketball games in a row.
No, well,
I'll watch.
It's a far worse product than like
Yeah.
NBA basketball equivalent.
But the thing is, I don't watch the NBA until later because they've spent years making February basketball completely pointless.
Right.
You know, like,
no, I agree.
It's like, like unless it's like a really cool matchup or something like that, I'm not going to really tune in.
What do you mean Giannis isn't gonna play until May?
Yeah. Like that's just make the whole season the playoffs.
Right.
Just do that.
It's all the Premier League.
Yeah, just do that. Because, again, if you're trying to tell me on January 9th today that the NBA game that's tonight is going to change the whole season, it won't. Look, I understand as a huge baseball fan that it's not like that, but, like, baseball is more of a – I don't know.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Yeah, it is. It's just like it relaxes me.
Yeah.
Until October when it's not relaxing at all.
Then it's the worst.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the worst sport in the world in October.
In June, baseball is like,
Oh, darn. Roy Oswalt got rocked.
it's
Whatever.
just a nice little cool drink as I sit in the sun and enjoy the weather. And then in October, it's like 70 straight shots of espresso.
Yeah.
Like into my
We're storming the beaches. Get on.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it is. Where, a guy gives up a home run and like, all right, well, that sucked. Lost to the Yankees, bummer. And then he gives up a single with 2 outs and the worst hitter coming up. I'm like, that's it.
It's over.
The season's
over.
over.
The franchise. Everything that I love and is good is dead.
This 190 hitter is going to come up and have his career-defining.
You say that, and then Scott Besednik hit a home run in the World Series again in 2005. So, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it is because I believe people in those moments have this look. If I'm ever going to do something, now's the time to
Why
do
not
it.
ruin these 7-year-olds' lives,
Scott Pasenik is from
West
here. I hate the name drop, but he's a friend. And when you go into the White Sox, the cell, whatever it's called now, but when you go into the park and you get on you're walking up the concourse, there are several pictures of every moment of that home run. All over the place, and I just feel bad for anybody who's like me and likes to just go to different baseball parks.
Yeah.
But if you're an Astros fan, you're like, all right, let's check Chicago off the list. We'll see the Cubs tomorrow, and we'll see the White Sox today. And then you're like, oh, do. I'm gonna get a hot dog. Oh, look, there's a statue of Frank Thomas. Do. Ah!
Nightmare.
What is this? What are you doing to me, Chicago? Why? Why?
Staying up till midnight just to watch him hit bombs off of your favorite players is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He hadn't hit a home run all year. I digress. Anyway.
Yeah. Freddie Garcia threw they didn't use that was the weird they didn't use the bullpen the whole postseason. It was wild. Everybody's throwing complete games.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's the off season and there are lots of things going on. Michigan's off season will be a very interesting one. In that Jim Harbaugh, I'm just telling you, by Friday or Saturday, I don't expect this guy to be the coach at Michigan anymore.
No, the Tennessee Titans are asking to interview Jim Harbaugh. I mean, it'll be the Chargers, 110%.
But it wouldn't surprise me if he interviews with 3 teams. If he
Atlanta's open now.
Yeah,
but they're interviewing everybody under the sun.
Yeah, Washington.
Look. Carolina's owner now is the worst owner in sports. Tepper isn't above trying to make another splash and hire another huge college coach.
But this one has.
But they don't have it. But he doesn't
NFL
have any money.
Pedigree. That's 44-19 as an NFL coach. Harbaugh is no slouch.
He made a Super Bowl.
He was a good NFL coach, and if I think Harbaugh also he's one of those guys you can work with for this many years.
Yeah,
and then at the end of that many years, it's time for Jim Harbaugh to go do that to someone else.
Yeah.
Go help another person. You've done all you can here. And look, Michigan, I think Sharon Moore will be the head coach and probably do a really good job there. They probably won't even lose that many people off the staff because he'll go hire a mostly NFL staff off that. So I think he's going to be gone. I think that his personal response to the whole multiple suspensions going on, has been mostly water off a duck's back because he knows, like, all right,
what are you going to do? Throw me in jail?
Well, yeah. What are you going to do? I'm just going to go to the NFL, and then he's done what he did at Michigan, and he's moving on. And it'll be interesting because J.J. McCarthy has a decision to make. A lot of people think he's going to the NFL. I don't know. Like,
I said it last week, and I didn't look at the comments because why would I? But like the thought is that he will, but the overall consensus on Twitter, because we all know what's right, is that he's going to get GMs fired. That maybe, if he goes in the first round, if somebody for some reason gives him a first round grade, which Mel Kiper had him really, really high, and not to say Mel Kiper has never been wrong, he has, like Jimmy Clausen, but like if he goes in the first round, he's going to get somebody fired.
Yeah.
I think he is we were saying before the show, second, third round quarterback. I digress. I don't see it with McCarthy other than he doesn't turn the ball over and he doesn't lose you games, but he's not, I just keep going back to it. He's not what CJ Stroud became this year, where he was actively winning you games despite coaching in the team.
Nobody is a surefire hit, but you're telling me that in a draft that has Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., and Jaden Daniels, like you're going to put him with those guys? I'm not going to.
No.
I'm not putting him, with some guys who are going to get drafted later.
He's
like
a perfect Patriots
like
quarterback.
Michael Pratt or Jordan Travis or Cam Ward. Like, and look, he's the one who just won the national title. But if I'm looking to build an NFL team, like, he's not going to be my ninth choice right now. Like, I need to see more. But I am also willing to concede that Michigan won in such a way where we only had to see like 50% of J.J. McCarthy.
There's layers to it, and I just think over the season, like down the stretch, it just, granted that Alabama game, he threw 3 touchdowns, he looked pretty good. I think last night is 75% of what J.J. McCarthy kind of is on the regular, and the elevated is that, like, I just think he's Davis Mills. Like, I just keep going back to it. And I'm not a draft expert by any means. I just like watching football, but I'm not quite seeing it where he was going to elevate himself over those people. Now, maybe he's like a combine hero and has the best arm strength we've ever seen in the history of the combine, and he runs like a 4.4 randomly. But I don't know. I'm not quite seeing it. And here's the thing too. Maybe he doesn't want to stick around for whatever fallout comes of post Jim Harbaugh, just to see if he can win another national title.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some people like to dismiss being a third round draft pick as a quarterback. There's some merit to just going.
Yeah.
Dudes play. You saw how many backup quarterbacks played this year in the NFL?
Yeah.
I think
all of
25.
Almost all of them.
Yeah,
literally, almost
everyone
all
got
of them.
snaps this year.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them.
You probably got snaps this year.
I'm still waiting.
They were pulling Italians out of their house to come
they
play.
were. That's why I'm waiting. Look, Flacco, you get Flacco. I'm the next one.
Yeah.
I'm currently on the Jets practice squad right now.
Yeah. Tommy DeVito was sitting at home and they're like, "You're next to the stadium, dude. Just come on."
Exactly. Yes, I'm the next Italian. I'm the next one. But it is interesting for Michigan going forward. Washington, just in those two, just the two teams, they've already signed Will Rogers in the transfer portal. They've got a bunch of those guys coming back, although they're going to lose the 3 wide receivers in Penix. And probably the tight end, too, because that guy's a stud. Troy Fatnow, the fantastic tackle, gone. Braylon Trice will be gone. So they've got some rebuilding to do. But
how was their running back a senior?
I think he's back. I think Dylan Johnson will be back.
Man, but he's dealt with injuries all year too. He's going to have massive recovery when it comes to this offseason.
Do you want to give a shout out to my good friend Will Nixon, who plays for the Huskies? Former Midway star.
Yeah.
He had a big drop in the game last night, but he also had a nice catch.
For it, though.
Well, yeah. So, but. Yeah, Will.
I didn't know that's where he was. I thought he
went to Nebraska and then he transferred to Washington.
Okay.
So I love Will Nixon, love Jeff Nixon, love the Nixon family. They were great. Will is one of the best kids I've ever interviewed, especially in high school, where it is an absolute Like crapshoot there's more, like you have better chances in craps. Like you can go and interview a high school football player and it's the first time, it's the first time they've had a microphone anywhere near them, like in the same room, and they're like, oh, okay. And then
they will talk for hours on a football field. You hand them a microphone, they've never talked before in their entire lives.
Yeah. And then
they don't know.
But then you have then you have those guys like, like Will and Tanner Mordecai, who played with Will, that are just good. Now, Tanner didn't give a crap. That's why he was so good.
He was gutsy.
Yeah. Will was just good, He was
on brand, on message.
Yeah. Will was just great. Will's a coach's kid. Like Will's lived in like a billion different places. Like he knows how to make friends really quickly because of that. Like, so you meet Will and it's like that. But I was happy that he got the opportunity to do that. I was bummed that Washington didn't get to win because A, I picked him, and B, I knew a guy on that team I didn't know on the other team.
Off-season storylines. I know we got 10 minutes left, but off-season storylines that I'm really interested to see, like obviously like the big, not the Big Ten. The Big Ten is expanding. The Pac-12 is bye, done. Yeah. See you later. Thanks for the memories.
And was Michael Penix not like the emblem of the Pac-12 at the end? Like, walking out. just the avatar of it. Yeah.
Oh, man, that sucked. We have to do that again? No. All right. Yeah. But I'm interested to see what happens. The ACC is the most fascinating storyline of the offseason.
The ACC's and what's going to happen. And right now, there's no real explanation for how Florida State is gonna do this, except for the fact that like there's a lot of weird things about this grant of rights, in that it's kind of like the Magna Carta, and it can only live in this one spot, and you can't take it out.
Yeah.
So if you want to have your lawyers examine it, they have to go to the ACC headquarters,
white gloves,
and sit in a room with the grant of rights, which has already been challenged by Florida's Attorney General, and those things are going to get super, super interesting.
Yeah.
And we had Matt Brown from Extra Points on the show yesterday. He made a point of the argument appears to be going forward that this penalty is too excessive to leave. Like it doesn't allow, like the penalty to leave and create fair capitalistic competition is unfair. That this is something now. The problem is that Florida State agreed to it.
Right, yeah.
But their argument also is like, well, none of us were here when that happened. So we've come here and
if we knew what we knew then what we knew now, we wouldn't have signed that, right?
Yes. We wouldn't have hired those nitwits who but that's going to be really interesting because Florida State is going to be the first one over the wall, however that happens. And when that happens, there's no reason for any of them, even if the ACC comes back together in some form, there's no reason for the rest of the ACC to stay in that contract if they can make it more malleable. Like every other league will get to renegotiate their TV deal twice before the ACC does. And that's just assuming that college football stays in the same structure that it is in 2036.
No, I mean, it will be. I have zero faith that it will be. I'm just interested. So did you just mention the TV rights deals?
So like the Big 12, Big 10, and SEC.
They've all inked it. Yeah.
They've all inked deals, but they'll get to ink another deal and then potentially another deal before the ACC gets to even think about it. Unless ESPN 2 years from now, which they can do, can eliminate the contract and axe it, which
seems like an inevitability.
Yeah. So like the ACC, I know they're fighting against their demise, but and I think Florida State is also sending the message of like, listen, if we leave, you're dead anyway.
Yeah.
So like, what's going to happen? Because 2 years from now, it's just going to be gone, and that may be to where they push this limit because they're going to leave as soon as they can, but their can might be 2 years from now and not one.
Right.
But yeah, there's so much to this in that the next realignment thing is going to be like all these things have been earth shattering, but the next thing that happens
is the big thing, you think?
It almost has to be the big thing of like, look, we've got to like, it has to signal we have to stop this. We have to stop it and figure out what we're going to be and how we're going to structure this so that we're not living in court.
Yeah, and is the NCAA even an entity to govern that?
Yeah, exactly. So it's those things that, like, that's why they've proposed the new structure and all these things of, look, would you like to be and play with the big boys and do all this stuff and spend all this money? Then yes, you're in. But then that's going to mean renegotiating all the TV contracts and sharing with everybody, which right now that's the problem, is that nobody's out for the good of the entire sport. They're out for the good of the me.
Yeah.
And the good of the me is, well, I don't really care what happens in that conference as long as I'm good here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then
I'm good in Waco, Texas. You know,
yeah, I'm good. I'm good right here. I'm good. Fine. I don't care what happens. But the thing is that unless you're, and honestly, even the ones who are in those conferences, there's a few who probably are nervous in that, okay, if we keep on doing this and doing this, at what point do we decide that, you know, in spite of this money that we're getting, it's not worth it to be this humiliated? I don't know, like, or we're not worth it to them anymore because the TV networks just said, like, you know, you guys are playing a lot of Vanderbilt Rutgers type games.
Right.
It's not really
not a good product.
It's not really blowing my skirt up, you know. So
it's all about the product.
Why don't we find out a way to get them in and, like, you know, bring in somebody else? And that's probably, those discussions have probably already happened at some level somewhere.
Yeah.
In that, like, okay, well, how do we make this just the teams that people routinely watch on television?
Which is tough for most fans. But yeah. One more storyline that I wanted to, speaking of negotiating, how does NCAA football 2024 shake up the landscape of this whole thing?
Oh.
Because the video game. Because, look, I don't think it's going to be earth-shattering, but they are already, like, really having to negotiate what this thing is going to be and how this can be a bargaining chip. I want to just see how schools leverage this. You'll be on a video game, kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and the thing is that's where collective bargaining comes in. Like, that's where it's going to start, is that, look, we have to, you know, yes.
And I think some teams have already been left out because they just don't want to negotiate with it.
You're not
huge teams, but
you're all gonna make $750 from this, kids. Like, let's not think that, you know, if you're on the cover, you'll make way more.
Right.
But if you're not
Caleb Williams, you will make money.
Yeah. But if you're not on the cover, then let's be realistic here. You know, let's you know, take your money that you're gonna get because your name's gonna be on the thing. But that's where it's gonna be collectively bargained.
Right. I'm not saying it's a huge thing. I just think it's a big deal to a lot of people because people were tweeting like we were supposed to get like a trailer last night, and that just didn't happen because EA doesn't care about you. But, like, it is funny to me to think that we have had this in this day and age. We haven't had a game.
All right, hold on. I have to address something. Yeah,
we just haven't had this in a day and age where the complete total landscape of football has shifted and so many different fun things could have been used, and also it's now, I feel, going to be a bargaining chip for people to come to our university.
Yeah. All right, Bracket Cat has made an accusation on the chat room that is not true about me. He said that I played high school football through middle school, and through the first year of high school. That is not what happened. I will show you. I was a proud 6th offensive lineman through all of high school.
Hey.
Yes. So, yeah, respect my, like,
you're
listen.
In the yearbook?
Yeah, I'm in the yearbook, buddy. You're going to look at Bishopville High School, 1998, lost in the first round of the playoffs because the 6th offensive lineman had to play.
Just getting worked.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. I'm not going to tell you that I was some great football player, you jackass. But also, like, don't make up things about me. And so Joel Hisagawa legit leg kicks. Yeah, and calling me fat. Yes, I understand. This is beef. This is beef. This is what happens.
Got in the way.
Yeah.
You were able to stand in the way of people.
Yeah, exactly. Look, that's what happens. But all of you trying to tell me about my life and that you don't respect me, I just appreciate that you watch the show in spite of the fact that you think that I'm an idiot. So go back to masturbating in your basement and leave me alone.
Look, there was a podcast review on our feed that said, I think they called us a cavalcade of idiots.
Yeah.
So that's the best review we've ever gotten in our entire life.
Yeah, that's it. Look, you're not going to get me upset about my weight. I've been a stand-up comedian forever. I lean into this, okay? But I do not respect you belittling my high school football career.
Damn it.
Hey, because I'm standing here popping my knee this whole time because of that.
Yeah.
All right? I was there. Absolutely. So.
Also, not playing sports doesn't disqualify you from talking about sports. I hate that.
Yes.
Just
yeah.
Continue that.
Now,
anyway.
I played baseball through my first year of high school, and then that was the sport that told me, like, listen, you're done here.
Once people started throwing cutters,
you've gone as far as you can go. My last high school football game, and I knew it before, but like I played in this. Well, this is before that. I played in the spring jamboree and up against Immokalee High School, and Immokalee High School had Edgerrin James.
Oh.
At the time. And we were doing this thing. I've told this story to a million people a million times because I think it's hilarious. But we were doing this thing where the defensive tackles were all like rotating through because it's a spring jamboree. You only play like a half.
Scrimmage.
And, it doesn't matter. But Edgerrin was playing in this game. For what reason, I don't know. But maybe it was just to humiliate me.
A bloodletting.
But I remember getting in the game, being like so excited. My dad's over there. He's taking a picture. And then I'm standing at the line waiting to come down, and here comes Edgerrin James running onto the field to take a carry, and I'm like, oh crap, because they only ran like 3 running plays. It was like sweep this way, toss this way,
up the middle,
dive. Which I'm like, they're gonna call dive. They're gonna call dive. I hope the fullback hits me. Maybe the fullback will hit me. That's not what happened. Edgerrin James hit me, and my knee pops
forever.
Yeah. So there. So
you'll remember that on your deathbed.
Yeah.
This Hall of Famer tore my knee up. That's why I'm not walking to like hold my grandkids.
Yeah. So yes. No. Me and my brothers from Bishopboro High School will not stand for you selling my high school football career, Bracket Cat, which was not glorious, and I spent a lot of time looking that way while other people did things, but I was there, damn it. I had shoulder pads on and jock rot and all that. Like everyone.
I still remember the smell.
Yeah. This I do. So that rant has taken me over the line, but I will not let you sully the good name of the Vikings. I will not.
You can talk about my livelihood.
You can talk about my weight.
Yeah.
You can talk about a lot of things. But Viking pride lives forever.
Forever.
All right?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all
NCAA
of that.
Offseason, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later, but yes. Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm Paul Catalina. This is Royden Ogletree. That's Garrett Ross. A very disapproving Jack McKenzie is over there. This is the Triple Option. We'll see you tomorrow.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business